Survival, and today what I want to go over is the 2 kilowatt inverter system on Fred 3.0. The reason why I want to go over this system, and I've already sort of explained it a little bit in a few other videos, is I could not research enough of the 2 kilowatt system on a Ford F150. There was not that much information out there, other than a lot of people saying, oh, you can, operate a television, you can charge a few tools and operate a few tools off the tailgate. I wanted to do what we used on our trip, which was our toaster and our kettle, just to go over a few extra things. So this will be a compilation of different days of when we used that equipment on the truck, whether it was via an extension cable going into our mosquito screen or if it was off the tailgate of the truck itself. I want to go over where the switches are to turn it on and what we are looking for when it comes to two ways of charging, 400 watts or 2000 watts. And then you've already seen the messages that come up, and if you haven't, they will come up in this video, of what happens when you have something plugged in the bed, because that does make a bit of a difference. If you have nothing plugged in the bed, you get no extra messages. It just charges from the two outlets that are inside of the cab. If you have got something plugged into the bed, then there will be a question, and you have to operate the brake, and then you have to answer another question before it will engage drive or reverse via the gear shifter. You've seen those pop-ups come up, and I've explained what they mean. So if you haven't seen them, please watch this video and you will see them. If not, we'll go into the past videos and you will see the messages that I'm talking about. Let's have a look at the screen, what the charge inverter shows on the screen, and where the switch is to turn it on and off. I may have to let Bella in because I can hear her crying. I also want to show you the location of some of the stuff that comes with the inverter, as in some batteries and the inverter itself. So, when we're in this screen, what we have is a features button down here, and then we have our Propower on board. Currently, you can see that this is actually turned off. So we have the power button here and the generator mode. So the engine must be running, and I have not got that engine running just yet. The other way to start the inverter up is via this switch here, and that is the plug-in button. So if we start the vehicle up, I'm just going to turn it off again. So if I turn it off, and I'm going to switch it on by this switch out of sight, you can see there that it automatically went to 200 watts. If I turn it off from the same switch to the left of the steering wheel, okay, in generator mode, the engine will continue to run in supply power outlets, only use the vehicle outside. So it's still turned on. I can turn it off here. I can hit generator mode. Again, you get that same message. And again, you can see it's set in 2000 watts right now. If I hit generator mode again, you can see it's now in 400 watts. So there is a bit of a difference depending on how much you want to charge. If I put a power plug in this one here, or the one in the rear seat, then normally I don't have more than 2000 watts. I don't normally have more than 400 watts going through these outlets. So we, for now, will actually put it into 2000 watts because I want to simulate the kettle being boiled and the toaster being operated. The reason why I want to go over this again is, as you will see, Because I made a cock up in the video when I dropped the tin of tea and that vehicle in the parking lot was driving by, you didn't actually hear the high idle increase. And I wanted to let you know how different that is in loudness when it comes to operation of this. And we're around 6 to 650 RPM. I'm just going to turn the inverter on just so that you can see. This is in 400 watt mode. And if I increase it, that's in the 2000 watt mode, and you can see that it jumps up to about 900 RPM now. So I'm just going to turn it off. I'm actually going to change the generator mode again. 400 watts and off. This will make a difference to your fuel consumption. Be advised of that, because when you're driving, I know you'll be driving in different gears, which means you'll be, anywhere up to 4,000 RPM depending on the gear change and the load, right down to 1500 to 1800 RPM when you're cruising, with our case with the trailer on the back. So be advised that you will see a difference in your fuel economy. This device setup, not only does it have the 2 outlets in the truck, one at the front, one in the cab center behind the center console, 2 in the bed. It also comes with an alternator, an extra alternator I should say, so this has 2 alternators. And let's go and have a look at the back and what else. So the inverter sits under the driver's rear seat. If you have the 400 watt inverter in your current or previous vehicles, this would be a way smaller unit and it would be located under the rear passenger side. This would actually be a storage bin, and as you can see here, that option is not with this vehicle. It has orange cables to tell you that there is high voltage in here, obviously 110 AC volts, that's high voltage. So everything designated like that would have an orange connection. Now let's go and have a look at what is over there right now. So this is totally new. You can see here that there are two 12 volt AGM batteries. These 2 batteries are wired up in series. You can see here negative and positive. So that means that this battery system is actually 24 volts at 7.5 amps, because the voltage will increase but the amperage will stay the same. I have not found much information what this tells me, but my slight understanding of what information is out there and my own knowledge is telling us that these batteries are like a capacitor. They store energy, to take away unwanted voltage spikes, but also to help smooth out the voltage from the inverter when you're actually in idle mode or in start-stop mode. That's the only assumption that I can come up with, and it is not something to be taken granted for, because I don't know the true information. Under here there actually is a fuse. It is a 125 amp fuse. So if that will then separate if there's a problem with this battery system. As you've already seen, we already have the other plug in the back of the rear console here as well. So that's the second one. This is the alternator, I believe, that runs the inverter system. I did have a question about the alternators and do they work all the time when the engine is running. We're going to go over that as well. So I believe that's the inverter alternator. This is the alternator, I believe, for the engine. I've just started the truck up and I've turned the inverter off because I want to show you something else I spotted yesterday. But now with the inverter off, let's go and have a look at the belts and the alternators. So right now you can see the belt rotating and the pulley is rotating on the inverter alternator. And that is the alternator of the engine for the vehicle electronics. Sorry for the shake, I'm holding on to the engine. And you can see that that one is also rotating. I'm going to turn the inverter on. It's in 400 watt mode. I'm going to turn it on to 2000 watt mode and I'll be quiet and you can hear the engine increase. Let's go and have a look at the alternator now. Still rotating, which it should be doing, and still rotating. Like I said, I did have a question about the alternators rotating, but I believe that these are, or they should be, in the world of today, intelligent alternators. So they will only work, and that's internal workings, as in creating electricity, when you turn things on. Normally, vehicle alternators of modern vehicles will not charge well under load, i.e. going up a hill, but going down a hill they should turn themselves on and charge that way. So with the alternator for the inverter, unless you turn the inverter on, it's probably going to be freewheeling and creating less drag on the engine, which means better fuel economy. And I definitely see that with this truck, this 2022. I have had a previous 2019 with only the 400 watt inverter. The fuel economy with this vehicle, without all the extra stuff on it like the roof racks and the towing of the trailer and extra accessories, I do get good mileage on the highway, anywhere between 9 and 12 litres per 100. This truck, when we were towing, I got 18 litres per 100 because the inverter was on 2000 watts all the time. Now, comparative to our trip in 2019, I was getting 16.5 litres per 100 with the same system, albeit I had a canopy on the back, not the roof boxes. I had the same trailer of the same weight, 2,400 pounds, doing the same trip. So with the inverter, I definitely had less fuel consumption, or worse fuel consumption, I should say. So it is going to drink more fuel. What I want to show you is the inverter is now off. I turned it off physically, and you can tell that because there's no yellow LED right here. What I want to do is plug this power bar in there and just turn it on and show you what I did notice yesterday. As you can see, I've turned the power bar back on. The LED is not on. So now I have to turn on the generator, and the LED comes on now. Now I just want to turn this off, turn the truck off, and I'm going to start the truck up again, and I want to see if this LED comes back on because something is plugged in to the 110 circuit. Straight away it recognized there was a plug in there. Now I don't know if that's a default setting. I can try that out in a second as well. If we go to the Propower on board, we can see that 200 watts is on. So I'm going to again turn it off. LED is off. Turn the car off. Let me just do a cycle. I'll open the door, close it right down, just in case people have questions saying, were you supposed to, open and exit the vehicle? Sorry for the sun, it's a weird angle at the moment. How about that? Start the vehicle up again. The LED did come back on. And back on again. Now, let's disconnect this. Let's disconnect this. So there's nothing in there. Let's turn it off and turn the engine off. I'm going to open and close the door again. And now let's start the vehicle up again. Open and close the door. Start the vehicle. And it defaults to on. So you might ask, why is that an issue? Well, it's like the automatic start-stop function. You can always turn it off, but it defaults on. I didn't recognize this until the question was asked, and then my memory went, hold on a minute, I did turn it off and turn it back on again, and I had the Propower turned off, and it started automatically, but I had my power bar connected in the back, and I just thought, oh, it recognizes it. So if you have a concern about the use of the alternator, the second alternator for the inverter, consuming more fuel, you are going to have to go into your features mode, Propower on board, and turn the generator mode off every single time. I have not seen a feature that can turn it off permanently unless you want it on. So it was a good question, and I hope that I've answered the question. Understanding of my vehicle and how some systems work, but this is my understanding. It's not, I haven't seen anything from Ford to tell me that this is how it works properly. So you will have to turn it off every single time. Will it affect your mileage everyday driving? It might well do, because that alternator, the second alternator, has been energized and it's actually working. I have not noticed a significant drop around city driving with nothing plugged in. I know it's at 400 watts. That seems to be the default right there. It doesn't seem to affect my fuel mileage around the city or around on the highway. This is my third F150, and the previous two have had the 400 watt inverter systems on, and you couldn't turn those on or off. So my fuel economy on the last two trucks, anywhere between 9 and 11 highway, 11 to 14 in the city. This is doing exactly the same thing. The only big difference is I did notice a fuel increase when I was towing the trailer. 1.5 liters per 100. Yes, it could be crucial, but for us, we'd budgeted the amount of fuel that we spent, and it didn't really bother us that much. I did have a DC-DC converter on the previous truck, both trucks actually, and did I get a fuel increase? Yes, but I only had one alternator, but it didn't affect it like this. Again, the 2019, we did the same trip. We got 16.5 liters on an average, and this trip was 18. So it's up to you if you want to go this route. I just also want to clarify, because I did also have another comment on how to do the math and everything with this. This is not a 240 volt system. This is only a 110 system with a 2 kilowatt inverter. I do not have the power boost, whether it's got the 2.4 or the 7.2 kilowatt systems. I know nothing about that system. Good morning, everybody. It's super early this morning on our second day, but I just wanted to quickly show you that we're going to try this kettle out today. It is plugged into the back of Oasis. I have to turn on my counter connections right here. The LED is a faint glow of red right there, and I'll take you very quickly to the truck to see what the inverter is actually doing. So the downside is I do have to start the car up. We are kicking 1100 watts. This kettle is a 1200 watt kettle. We're kicking 1100 watts. This is where the inverter sits at the back of the car, and that's how loud the fan is, because it's working overtime right now. And we're currently running the fridge that's in the back of the truck. So let's see how long it takes to boil this kettle. So just to let you know, it is 6:32 a.m. So just a quick update while we're just talking about power. I just checked what the little trailer battery is getting supplied right now, and that is 1.5 amps, and that is because it's on the very small trickle charger. There's no solar coming in right now. We're only getting 0.1 of an amp, and I'm also delivering 4.5 amps to the battery inside of the truck. well, we're boiling water from the kettle, so it's quite a bit of power, and it's only delivering busy road this morning, and we're only delivering 1100 watts out of the 2000 watt inverter, so I'm really happy so far. Time wise, we are about 3 or 4 minutes into the kettle boil, and it's already starting to sound like a kettle operation. So it's currently 6:39, so 7 minutes. That's about our average boil for this kettle. It's just about to click off right there. Perfect. Not bad. 7 minutes to boil a kettle. Good morning. I'm not sure what time it is actually. That's about 10 o'clock in the morning. Just having breakfast, plugged into the back of the truck. So we're going to try this out, and we're using the toaster. This is the second time we've used it, so it's plugged in right here, but we got the toast going, muffins today. Let's go and have a look in the car, see what it's doing. So right now it's just giving us the warning. Let's close that. And as you can see here, we're at 810 watts. That's what the toaster's kicking out. And the kettle was, what, 1100? So the difference there. And we're using the Propower on board, which has been phenomenal so far. And it also helps when we're running it like this to charge the batteries in the back. Have a quick look at that. You can see there that we're also charging the batteries. Pretty good in my mind. This morning I'm trying the toaster and the kettle together, and it's a happy camper cup of tea morning. Wow, look at that. That's the kettle and the toaster and the battery charger on in the back right now. It's telling me it's a little bit red. 1850. That's pretty cool that I can run a toaster and a kettle at the same time. And the battery charger down there. Pretty cool so far anyway. 2000 watt inverter. It's the first time I've actually ran that amount of power on it. Awesome. Now, just to give you an idea actually of what it's doing, let's go to the inverter itself and you'll hear it howling. And that's the air intake. And you can see that our big fridge is on, but that's running off a 12 volt battery, but we're also charging up the battery. That's pretty cool. I'm really impressed. Well done, Ford. So we are actually using the heat from the toaster to warm up the bacon. As you can see, it has started to melt some of the fat because we pre-cooked this a couple of days ago. Toaster just popped up, and this is an amazing idea. All I can say is cheers. So this is just a quick video on us making tea. I've already made 2 cups of tea and 2 pieces of toast. We have 1 piece of toast in the toaster right now. But I want to turn the kettle on and show you the high idle. Right now, this is the truck as it stands. We're kicking in about 1100 watts. And when we add the toaster, it's going to bring us up to about 1800 watts. But I just want to show you the idle increase once this vehicle's left. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the kettle on. And that is all the idle increased by. So that's now running the kettle and the toaster. It's also charging both batteries in the truck and an Oasis. But that's about 200 watts max. But that's how quiet it is. It's not too bad. Once it's off of cold start idle, it's pretty quiet. But it can be annoying towards campers. But you know, the exhaust for us is actually facing towards our tent. We can't smell anything. we really love this inverter system on this Ford F-150 2022. I hope this video helps out. I know when we did it, like I said before, we could not find any information on this system whatsoever, and we found it challenging to understand what it was going to do, but it's actually performed wonderfully. We're on 2 weeks, 3 days, so 17 days right now, and it's worked flawlessly. So what I've done is I've set it up the same way that we would have set it up when we were in vacation. We have the extension cable going into the back of the truck to the table, which was roughly the same distance from the exhaust to the table when we were in the odd hot springs. We'll start off with the toaster, we'll listen to the idle, I will shut up, and then we'll activate the kettle and we'll see what it sounds like, because don't forget, you will be using this generator, the engine has to run, you could be at a campsite, and it's basically like a conventional generator for camping. But I want to see what it sounds like with the high idle to see if it's noisy. And bearing in mind, toast is about 5 minutes, kettle is about 5 minutes. If you do them together, 5 minutes, and then you can turn it off. We will turn the kettle on first. Don't know if you heard that, but the idle went from about 900 and it raised up. I will be right back and I'll tell you exactly by how much it went up by. It only went up by like 100 RPM. It's just below 1000 RPM. Now I'll be quiet again. I've left this here so that you can see that we're plugged in. I will turn the kettle on right now and I will be quiet. Pretty sure you could hear the RPM raise. You can see the exhaust is right close by, and hopefully you can hear that. I'll go and double check the RPM of the engine now. We are just over 1000 RPM, it's like 1050. So it really hasn't gone up much, but the sound is there. I'll be quiet again. But I now want to show you again the sound of the air intake and the exhaust on the inverter. Let's go quickly have a look. That's blowing out. I don't know if you saw it earlier. That's the computer fan blowing in. And that is the sound with it uncovered. Is it any quieter with it covered up? Now, let's turn them off. They're both off. The idle is still a little bit high. Oh. There it goes. It's gone down because there's something plugged in. It's about that 950 RPM again. Again, just to show you, we are at 200 watts, and like I said, just under 1000 RPM. I'm actually going to turn it off, and there you go, drops down to the 650, 700 RPM. Today we are going to do a boil test. We are going to do a boil off between an electric kettle and the propane pot that we boil. We've already set up the kettle. We are going to use 2 bottles of water, which is 1 liter in the kettle. I am then going to refill these bottles with the tap water that comes out of the tank, which we don't drink. And then we're going to pour that water into this. And the reason why is because I'm actually going to boil some old MREs that we have here, a hash brown and a maple oatmeal for breakfast, and we don't drink the water when we boil in the bag. So it'll be a fair test. It'll be 1 liter in the kettle and in the pot, and then we're going to time it. And the test here is the 2 kilowatt inverter operation for the electric kettle. So how fast will it boil both pots? And as Sandra has said, that she always thinks that the water out of the kettle is way hotter than the kettle that comes out of the pot. But obviously we're not going to be able to test that because we don't drink that water. So this is just purely a timed boil test. For this test, we will turn the propane onto full, so we give it a fair go, and we will see. There will be a lid as well on top of the pot. So I've taken the lids off just for ease because of the videoing. There goes 500 ml. We'll keep this bottle, and there's another 500 to make 1 litre. We'll see what the kettle says, if it's true or false. The kettle says it's just a little bit over the 1 litre. And now I'm going to fill these up with that water. Okay, so now we will put I'm going to leave a little bit in there because I'm pretty sure somebody's going to criticize the fact that I added more water to 1 bottle, which is a fair comment. I don't think it's going to make any difference. So now we have exactly the same in the pots. I'm going to put the lid on. Now we have to go and start Fred. We're going to go start the car, or just to make sure that you don't think I'm cheating, we're in the off position. So when I start Fred up, there won't be any instant charging. Now we do have to go through some messages. Let's just see what it does. We have cold start idle. And we have the something is plugged in, so we want to say yes in the bed outlet, and we can just close this message. That means we are good to boil. The burner has started. I'm going to turn this to full. It's going to be a bit tricky doing this on my own, but so what I'm going to do now is we have the stopwatch, the electric kettle. I'm going to place this one first. Going. Electric kettle on, and start the clock. And just to let you know, the electric kettle is on. And I will come back to you shortly. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear it over the engine of the car. We have got steam coming out of the kettle. We do not have steam coming out of the pot. We are waiting for that to start steaming. That would be the count to finish. The kettle is about there, clicked off. 650.63. And the kettle is just starting to boil. A little bit of steam coming off. And a rolling boil. So that test was actually pretty good. I'm going to turn that down because we're going to put our MREs in there. 650 and about 655, so the test was real close. Just to show you again, I have not changed the time. That was when the kettle boiled and clicked off. And you can see behind me that this thing is steaming its head off right now. We had a rolling boil and I would say 5 to 7 seconds after the kettle. So it's your choice to make if you want to use propane or gasoline, depending on which is cheaper. I mean, technically propane is cheaper in my mind, but ease and convenience of having that 2 kilowatt and getting the engine warm prior to driving instead of having a cold engine could be the way to go. Hope you like this test. I hope this video is helpful for you to understand different things, sounds and wattages or amperages that are being consumed by the consumers. Like I said, I did not find very much information out there about the 2000 watt inverter system. I did not know much about what was involved in it other than it took up space under the back seat. You've seen the modifications that I've done, and I'm going to show you one more modification where it's basically an update to the modification shortly. And again, I just want you to have a look at what I found when we were traveling. And again, just to repeat what I've already said in this video, we were charging 2 battery chargers for 2 batteries or 2 battery systems. We did operate a toaster and a kettle. And just to let you know, in future, we did also purchase a 700 watt microwave. In fact, I might go and get that and plug that in on its own and see how this does that as well. So this is the 700 watt microwave that we purchased. It is currently off, so let me go turn it on from the back, and we can do that from this switch right here. The high idle comes in. The microwave has turned itself on, sorry about the light. And I'm just going to turn on the 30 seconds. I will be quiet and we will have a listen to the high idle, and then I'm going to quickly go to the dash and see what wattage we are consuming with just that. The green is plugged in, but there is no operation of the kettle or the toaster. So let me just go double check. Okay, so we are back in 2000 watt mode. The idle kicked in. Let's have a look to see what the wattage is. For a 700 watt microwave, we actually have 1010. Oh, I think it just turned itself off. I'm not sure if you can hear. Let me turn it back on again and have a listen while I be quiet at the inverter line. Just turn it back on. And the microwave turned itself off, 30 seconds, but you can still hear the inverter cooling down, and the idle has just dropped down. What I'd like to show you now is the modification after our trip to the electrical connector. What I found was when it was straight across here, it was actually a real pain to see inside what the position of the plug was. As you can see now, I've added a 90-degree bend to it, so it makes life a lot easier when you take the cap off. Right inside where you can see those prongs are, and with your extension cable, push the lead in without having to lie on my back in the dirt, the mud, the rain to get to the angle that it was on. So this, it is held up with zap straps just up in here, just to stop it from bending down. But I've shortened the length. It was out to about here, and it is secured to the truck. So again, I have not glued any of these pieces because I want to be able to strip it down if I can. There is no gap here. This piece is actually a 45 degree, and I've sort of bent it in a little bit going towards the back of the truck. I want to thank you for watching this video, and I hope it gave you some insight, like I said earlier. on how we did travel. The microwave was an added, because that's something we did buy for our glamping, because obviously our life has changed and we seem to think that we need more electronics in our lives. We've never been a generator person, but now we've got this onboard generator. And again, I couldn't find any information out, so I'm hoping that you like this video. If you do, give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications for future videos. Survive to be alive.